This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Well, hey there and happy Tuesday. Welcome to episode 44 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm so glad you are here. I am recovering from an amazing week at the Together Experience in Portland, Oregon. It was so wonderful. I'm writing a recap blog post right now, and it's actually turning out to be longer than I expected, so be on the lookout for that. I have a couple of other live episode elements to record, or not record, I already recorded them, to put together for the podcast. If you didn't check out episode 43 from last week, it's really short. It's just about 9 minutes long, and it is a compilation of some of the guests and some of the speakers at the conference, just telling what they're excited about or what they're speaking about if they were a speaker. It was really fun. I enjoyed doing that. And I actually did that with my iPhone and with a little mobile mic that I'll tell you guys about soon. It was really fun. So today on the podcast, my guest is Claire Swinarski. Claire is super awesome. We are chatting today about getting published, and we're talking getting published in print and online for big magazines, local magazines, and everything in between. I really enjoyed chatting with Claire because she made getting published seem very attainable and realistic, and I think that you will agree. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about Claire. She is a freelance journalist and a copywriter for creative entrepreneurs. She graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a degree in journalism before spending 2 years doing mission work in New Orleans and Missouri. After working in marketing for an engineering firm, she jumped ship to go full-on freelance. In addition to her copywriting and content marketing business, she freelances as a journalist and has written for publications like The Washington Post, Cosmopolitan, 17, Vox, Apartment Therapy, Good Housekeeping, and Woman's Day magazine. She's also written for the popular bridal publications Bridal Guide, Veil, and Bride and Groom, and currently writes regularly for Milwaukee Magazine and the popular wedding blog Woman Getting Married. So you can see why I definitely want to have her on the show. She is very well versed in how to get published in those wedding publications that can really help us grow our wedding businesses. So let's go to the show with Claire Swinarski. Claire Swinarski, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I was just telling you offline, I'm really, really excited about this topic on a personal level. So I feel like this is kind of self-serving for me.
Great. Well, that's great.
But I'm really excited. So I gave everyone your professional bio at the top of the show, but I would love for you to tell us in your own words, just briefly, who you are and how you're currently serving the wedding industry.
Sure. So my name is Claire Swinarski, and like Kinsey said, I'm a freelance journalist and a copywriter. So as a freelancer, I write for all kinds of publications. Specifically, I'm a regular writer at womangettingmarried.com, as well as Veil, which is Wisconsin's premier wedding magazine. And as a copywriter, I help wedding industry pros connect with their dream clients through words, whether it's ghostwriting their blogs or wordsmithing their website copy.
Oh my gosh. So tell me how you got the gigs at Woman Getting Married and Veil.
Sure. So it's kind of a rambling story. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, but I am a born and raised Wisconsin girl, and I've always loved reading and writing. And so when I went to college, I wanted to be Rory Gilmore, and I decided to go into journalism. But at the time, the future of journalism was super unknown, and people were really pessimistic, saying, like, we're not going to have newspapers, journalism is a useless major, blah, blah, blah. So when I graduated, I actually became a missionary for 2 years, and I worked in New Orleans and Columbia, Missouri with a group called Focus. I worked on college campuses, like leading Bible studies and mentoring women. And then when I came back to Wisconsin, I got married, and I actually started working in marketing because there's a ton of writing in marketing. And I just kind of thought, okay, steady career, like I'll go be career lady and wear clicky heels at the office and go that route. And it was a great office. It was very professional, but it was like kind of old school. It was sort of like a boys club, and like in the engineering field, there's not really a ton of room for originality or innovation because there's just a lot of laws around it. I mean, you're building bridges. You can't really like redo that.
Right. There's like only one way to do that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I just started to feel like I'm sure a lot of people have felt this, where you just wake up and you go into a job you don't really like and you just feel stuck in a rut. And so when my husband and I found out that we were going to have a baby, I realized that I wanted a job that, first of all, made me excited to get up in the morning. And then I also wanted something where I could work from home, since in the area where we live, daycare is just super expensive. And so it didn't really make a ton of sense to me to like go to a job I didn't like all day, take that entire paycheck, and then pay a daycare to be taking care of my baby during that time.
Right.
And I knew a couple of people who were doing freelance journalism, so I reached out to them, kind of got some tips and tricks about how to get into it, and I just decided to take the leap and go for it. I did not have everything set up when I quit my job. Like, looking back, I can't believe that I quit my job where I was at with freelancing, but I did. And I've always really, really loved weddings. So I just started pitching wedding publications, and that's kind of became my niche. Like for Veil, for instance, I literally just emailed the editor and said, I'm a writer in Wisconsin. I absolutely love weddings. I was wondering if you ever work with freelancers. And she said, we're looking for a regular freelancer. Welcome aboard. So that's kind of how I got that gig. And as I dove into the wedding industry, I saw kind of a need among wedding pros for great copywriting. And so that's kind of why I started the copywriting side of things. But I absolutely love the freelance writing for wedding publications. So fun.
So how often do you publish for like women getting married in Veil?
Sure. So for women getting married, I'm writing a few articles a month. And then Veil only publishes twice a year. So I write a lot for those magazines, but they only come out twice a year. But like at Veil, there's really only an editor and then one full-time staff writer and then 2 freelancers. So It's like a very small staff that does a lot of work.
That's a ton of work. So you guys are probably like a really tight-knit team, and are you in constant communication since there's only 3 other people?
Yep. Lots of emails, lots of emails going back and forth.
Yeah. So how long have you been a freelance journalist then, Claire? What's that timeline?
Yeah, it's kind of up and down. I actually started doing it in college. There were just different publications that I loved, and I loved to write, and so I reached out to them and wanted to see if they were interested in me ghostwriting for them. And that's kind of how I got started with having some bylines, and things just kind of grew from there. When I was a missionary, I was able to do it on the side for fun, and I had a personal blog, so that was a great way to keep writing. And then while I was working in my office, I was speaking with friends who were doing freelance journalism regularly, and I just kind of learned from them more specific tips about how to reach out to editors and things like that. So I guess I've been doing it for about, maybe like 4 or 5 years now.
Wow, that's so awesome. This is so fun. So, okay, today we are talking about getting published, either in magazines or online or what have you. And we're not just talking about like styled shoots and stuff. So we're really going to dive in. Claire obviously has tons of experience around this. And I wanted to kind of shine a light on something that you said. When you reached out to Veil, you just did it. You found the name and the email of the editor, and not, just some random person. You were like, hey, this is an editor, so this is who I need to talk to. So I imagine that's going to kind of tie into what you tell us today. But I would love to kind of start by asking, why is getting published so beneficial to our business as wedding pros?
Sure. So, and just to clarify while we start talking, when I say getting published, it's like you said, I mean everything from guest posting for free on another person's blog or being paid to write an article for a magazine. Like there's a whole spectrum there of getting published. And
Perfect.
There's a lot of different avenues for growing your brand, whether it's like growing your email list or attracting more Instagram followers. And being published is just another way to keep growing your brand and get more eyes on it. I know in your interview with Ashlyn, she said that being published is like a great way to get eyes on your business. And it's really not done enough considering the wealth of information that we have to share as wedding pros. Like you don't realize how much you know about weddings that people want to read. Like, you know how it is when you're engaged. You just want to soak up all the info and read about all the weddings all the time.
That's right.
So I see a few main benefits of getting published. The first is that it directs people to your website a lot of the times. Specifically, a lot of online blogs and publications will point directly to your website. At the bottom of your piece, they'll have a little bio about you, and you can slide a call to action and a link to your website right in there, which is super helpful because obviously getting more website traffic can lead to more social media followers, more names on your list, and more potential clients interested in your business. And in addition to directing people to your website, another benefit of being published is that it really positions you as an expert in the industry. So like even this last weekend, like 2 days ago, I was contacted by a business magazine that wanted me to write about wedding planning for them. And I'm not a wedding planner, but I have clout as a wedding expert now. When I say, oh, I've written for Bridal Guide, I've written for Bride and Groom, your name comes up when you're thinking of wedding experts. And then the third main benefit I see is that it really helps your SEO, because when you link back to your website, that's what Google calls a natural link pattern, and it ends up boosting your ratings if you have a lot of different websites linking back to your website. So those are the kind of three main benefits I see.
Those are huge. And, you know, I was just thinking about this as I was kind of preparing for this interview. I have written for Belong magazine, but I've also just been quoted but this is before our venue is even 100% complete. So for those of you who don't know, I have a venue in Colorado, and that's what I do in the industry. But the venue's not even complete yet, but because I have this experience in the wedding industry and I've soaked up all this information, I've used Harrow, which is Help a Reporter Out, to get mentioned in Brides.
Oh, love Harrow.
Yeah. Get mentioned in Brides and She Finds. And when would that have ever happened unless I, immersed myself in the industry and actually just took a chance? I mean, and so now we can tell our local people or people we tour, like, we've been mentioned in Brides, like their online blog and She Finds, and it's like instant credibility. They think we're like, it's when they see that
a big
bride,
deal.
Yeah, just instantaneous credibility. So very interesting. Like, sorry, I'm getting so excited. Okay, I'm getting off topic.
No, that's awesome.
This is really neat. Okay, so those are three huge benefits. Absolutely love that. So you mentioned earlier that you were talking, like, getting published. Runs the gamut from free blogs to like an article in like a huge print publication, But, and I mentioned this earlier, aside from like, we all want our styled shoots and like our real weddings published, right? But what are some other things that we can submit that can help us be seen as authorities in the industry?
Sure. So everyone I talk to wants to be in Style Me Pretty. Yeah. It's like, style me pretty, style me pretty. That's the goal. But the key to being published, I think, is really thinking outside the box. So editors want to publish any pieces that their readers will be interested in reading, because it's a business. Like, more readers on their site or their publication means that more advertisers are going to pay them money. So there's an infinite amount of things that you could publish as a wedding professional. I mean, like I said, think about the massive amount of info you have stored in your brain. So I kind of say, first, just think about your ideal clients, and it all comes back to knowing where they're at. I mean, like, everyone wants to be on Style Me Pretty, like we said, but what doesn't occur to people is that weddings can be a really regional business. Like, I know there are wedding photographers who will travel anywhere, but a lot of wedding photographers mainly work in their town. So if you're a Boston-based wedding photographer, you're mainly going after brides who live and work and play in Boston. So you should be going after your local publications, because that's where your brides are hanging out. They're not necessarily on Style Me Pretty. And the people who love your shoot, well, they might live in Florida. They're probably not going to email you and say, can you fly to Florida and do my wedding? And they really don't have to be wedding publications either. Like, if you're that Boston wedding photographer, I'd suggest starting out by just emailing the editor of your local magazine, which I'm sure there are a ton in Boston, with a great email and a really refined pitch. And I mean, there's so many ideas you could do. You could do the best places to get married in Boston, or 10 reasons getting married in Boston is amazing, or an interview with a dressmaker in Boston. Like, there's so many different facets of wedding planning. And I know you had talked to Abby Herman earlier on the podcast too, and she talked about repurposing content. I mean, this is a great way to repurpose content and often even get paid for it. Like, if you've written a great blog post, rework it a little and then pitch it to a local editor. That's kind of where I would start. And like I said, just thinking about where your ideal clients are and like where they're reading and hanging out, because they're not also just on wedding publications. Like, if your goal is, millennial aged women, they're also on Refinery 29. They're on Bustle. They're on Cosmopolitan.com. And so reaching out to those kinds of non-wedding publications can be great too.
There you go. Because they're people. Like,
yes.
They're living life. Yes, they're obviously very steeped in their wedding planning, and I'm sure they're picking up all of those wedding magazines and getting online, but they're also just living their normal life. And you never know when you're going to hit them at the right place. Like, if you hit them on Refinery 29, that may be exactly what they need, because then they see you as somebody who gets their style.
Exactly. And Refinery 29 will
Claire.
pay you. A lot of these kind of places will pay you money to write for them, and they're looking for people to write for them. So there's really great opportunities that are going unused.
Ah, so smart. Girlfriend. Preach it. So I have a question then. Who should we reach out to? Like you mentioned, reach out to your local publications. In your experience, obviously, it sounds like we should find a specific person, but who should we reach out to? Tell me about that process.
Sure. So what I would do is go get a physical copy of the magazine, open it up, and look at the masthead and see who, not like the editor-in-chief, but who the managing editor is or the articles editor. Those kind of positions are the people who usually assign articles to people. And I guarantee you this day and age, pretty much every magazine is working with a ton of freelancers and does not have a huge staff. That's just where the industry is going. These things do not have a ton of money to pay benefits for everybody. They are really relying on freelancers. So go ahead and look for the name of that managing editor, and then you can either just pick up the phone and call and ask for their email address, or you can do some like Google detective work, be Sherlock Holmes on Twitter. It's usually not that hard to figure out. Like, you can figure out the email format for Hearst.com by Googling, and boom, you have the email address for the editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan. Like, it's not really that hard to find that kind of information.
Right. You said something just now. You can find information on Twitter, which I know that Twitter is still, if you're not using Twitter, don't run out and start a Twitter account just to start one for this, because I feel like we do need to kind of stay in our lane in our business, but Twitter is still being used. It kind of seems like it's going the way of the dinosaur, but I feel it's still being used by writers, journalists, editors.
Yes.
That's kind of where they hang out.
It is the Instagram of the publishing business.
Right.
It's Twitter. They are all on Twitter, and they are not on Instagram. And you don't even have to make a Twitter to look at someone's Twitter and look at their Twitter bio. So yeah, like you said, you don't even have to create an account, but you can just go creep on people. And a lot of these people will have their email address in their Twitter bio. Super easy to find.
Yeah, because they want story, right? They want good stories. And so they're going to make their information generally accessible, I would imagine, so that if you want to reach out to them and you have a good story, well, hey, they want to hear it.
Exactly.
Because they want unique content just like you do.
Yep.
So interesting. Okay, so you mentioned so this is a great tactical tip. Find the masthead in any magazine and reach out to those editors who are actually doing the work. I would love if you would give us kind of 2 other tactical tips that maybe could help us get our work published online or offline.
Sure. So the first thing I would say is sit down and make a list of places that you could pitch so you have them ready. I think it's easy to be like, oh, I want to be published this year, but you really need to sit down and make it happen. And so the first thing I would say is to just sit down and think of 10 places that your clients are hanging out, wedding publications and not wedding publications, like we talked about earlier. Just make a list and then kind of go after those editors. And again, it's thinking about where your clients are. So if you're a wedding planner, posting on the Rising Tide Society blog might not be the best use of your time, because those are entrepreneurs. So if your goal is to find people who are getting married, that's probably not really where they're hanging out. Whereas for me, I was all about getting published on Rising Tide because I work for entrepreneurs. So it's about thinking where your clients are hanging out. The second thing I would say is to just write a really awesome pitch email. Your pitch email with your article is going to be the key to unlock that gate. Your whole goal is trying to make the editor's life easier. So just writing a very simple, clear pitch email. It should be 3 paragraphs long. That's what I usually tell people. The first paragraph kind of giving an outline of what you'd like to write about with a great hook. The second paragraph talking more specifics, like this is who I would talk to about it. This is kind of the finite details that I would include. And then the third paragraph, just a little blurb about who you are. If you work in the wedding industry, you have great clout. So you can say, why should I write about the best places to get married in Boston? I'm a photographer and I have photographed these places. So I actually know the best places to get married. Just send that really great refined email, and that already will put you ahead of the crowd.
Do you think that, let's see. Oh, I remember. I was going to ask, tell me about follow-up. So we know that email can get lost. Can you kind of talk to me about following up? Is there such a thing as too much?
Yeah, I'm all about following up. I think that maybe too much is after 2 follow-ups. Like, I wouldn't usually send more than 3 emails, but emails do get lost and they get crowded. And again, if we're just trying to make an editor's life easier, I'm not really sure if they're sitting down and reading through every email in detail. But if you email them again and to show that, like, oh, I'm really passionate about this, I just really quick to say, I just wanted to circle back and touch base on this and see if you had any interest in this. Please let me know. That's just a great way to kind of give them a little poke. I'm all about following up. I've gotten quite a few things assigned to me through follow-ups.
What's your thoughts on re-pitching editors if you do get followed up with, but they decline your story?
Oh, heck yes. That is my opinion. I was in the Washington Post last year, and I think this was like the 6th pitch I have ever sent them. Like, if you're going into freelancing, you need to have kind of a persistent attitude about it. Like, a lot of times, these editors, they're just looking for great stories. If they say no, it's not like, oh, you suck and this was a terrible pitch. It's just, oh, this isn't a great fit for us right now. They're usually very open to hearing more of your ideas. And how I ended up getting a story in Bridal Guide is that I had pitched them a bunch of things, and the editor finally emailed me back and literally said, you know, these pitches aren't really working for me, but you seem like a hard worker. You want to just do this article that I need to assign to someone? And I was like, yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, sounds great. So yeah, I just think being very, very persistent and remembering that, I mean, these editors are people. They need you just as much as you need them, and they're not these big, scary, nameless people. They're just trying to do what's best for their readers.
Do you have another situation or just maybe more tips for really treating editors like people? You know, they have a job to do as well. They're not just, some crazy person high on the mountaintop. Like, they're working, just like you are, like 8, 10 more hours a day. So what are some other ways that we can really treat them well so that we can make an impression?
Yeah, like I said, having a great email is step one. They get so many emails, and a lot of them are rambling and not well written. So having a very concise email, obviously like spelling their name right and doing kind of research on them and seeing what their publication publishes so that you're not wasting their time with a pitch, but that you actually know that that would fit in their publication and not just like inundating them with emails of pitches that they'll never be able to use. Like, when you send an email to an editor, you should know the publication fairly well and know that this actually could fit with their niche. That's kind of what I would suggest.
Mm-hmm. How do you, in your experience, what I'm asking is, how often do you think that editors are looking or are okay with something that is kind of being repurposed, or how often do they want something that's completely unique and like 100% just on their site or their magazine?
Sure. It's going to depend on the publication. I think different publications have different like legal requirements. I know that some can be more picky than others, but I'd say a lot of the times if it's something that's on a personal blog, they're usually pretty okay with it. If you didn't get paid for it before, you didn't send it to a different company, but it was just something that you had and you reworked it, that's usually okay. I think it gets more tricky if like you've had something published in one wedding magazine and then you go to their competitor and try to sell it again. That's where I think things get kind of gray. But if it's on your personal blog, they're usually pretty okay with it being repurposed.
Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So this is just something I'm personally interested in. You've been published like on Good Housekeeping, Cosmopolitan. How did that happen?
Sure. It happened exactly like we're talking about. Wow. I looked up an editor and I wrote a great pitch email. But you know what? In none of those was that the first pitch I had ever sent to them. I don't think in any of them. It's usually taken me about 2 to 3 times before I get an article accepted. And the other thing is, for every article that I've had published, I might have pitched that a few different places and it got rejected from them before it finally got picked up. Like, I wrote about paid paternity leave for Good Housekeeping because it's something I'm super passionate about. Mm-hmm. I had pitched that to, I think, 5 or 6 other publications who had turned it down. But that, to me, I knew that was a really important story. It was something in my heart that I wanted to share. So I just kind of kept going at it. I mean, persistence is really so important to freelancing. Like, if you're the kind of person who feels rejected for days after they get a no email, this will be really hard for you.
Right.
You just kind of have to keep going at it. But yeah, so I just found editors' information online and shot them emails. It's really as simple as that.
How long do you wait if you don't hear back at all? Not that you've been rejected, but if you don't hear back at all from someone and you've followed up, your preferred amount of times, how long do you wait before you take that piece and pitch it somewhere else?
Not super long. Usually only a couple of weeks. I found that yeses come quick and nos are the ones that take a long time. So if someone's interested in your article, they're usually getting back to you within a week or 2. Even if you had to follow up, it's usually pretty quick. So I'd say, I don't know, maybe like a month at the longest.
Okay. Would you say that getting published, just not even on the big sites like Good Housekeeping, Cosmopolitan, but just in general, as you are published in more places, would you say that that has opened more doors? Because you can kind of put that in your bio when you send your pitch email?
Yes, I think it shows that I am professional and I've worked with a lot of editors. At the same time, though, you do not need those kind of bylines to get published at all. Like, the thing that editors are looking for are those great ideas of articles that their readers will enjoy and find interesting. I have written for the Washington Post and Cosmopolitan, and I send an idea, and someone who has never, ever been published sends a better idea, they will go with that person. I truly believe that you do not need those kind of bylines. They're kind of like a nice added bonus, but definitely not the foundation at all.
That is so awesome to hear. That seriously just like, yay, we can all do it.
No, absolutely.
Brilliant.
But, I mean, how I started is just sending emails. Like, you really do not need fancy publications to get started. You need great ideas and professional emails. Those are the two things I think you need.
Great ideas and professional emails. I'm seriously writing this down right now. It's going in the blog post.
Perfect.
Okay, so you obviously, you write a lot. You are a copywriter. You're helping entrepreneurs, so you're very busy. You're also a mom. Tell me, I'm very interested to know how do you manage your business? What tools do you use? They can be tech or not, to manage your business, your projects, your follow-ups.
Okay, I am a bit of an anomaly in the wedding business.
Ooh.
That I do not love using 7,000 programs.
There you go.
I feel like everyone has all of these tools, but I am really, really picky, and I have a super hard time finding systems that I love. So I keep it really simple. One thing that I love that I'm sure everyone knows about are the power sheets. I'm all about the power sheets. I'm a Laura Casey fangirl. We go back. It's like an intentional goal setting system. And I got them for Christmas, and I just love them because you can just pray over them and put a lot of time and thought into your goals. And I think, like, in our sphere, it's so easy to make goals just because you feel like you should make them because that's what everyone else is doing. Like, oh, well, this person found a passive income stream. I need to do that. Things like that. And I think the power sheets just help me narrow in on my focus and what I want to make as my goals. So I really love the power sheets. In terms of business, I just started using HoneyBook. I like it. I don't love it. It's pretty good, I would say. It's really intuitive, so I like that part of it. But I'm having a hell of a time finding, like, a project management system I love. So if anyone has any suggestions, hit me up. Because I've tried a few different ones, but I don't know. I'm just being really picky about it.
Yeah. I wonder, do you, like, when you say project management, what specifically are you looking for?
Okay, I'm looking for something that kind of integrates, like, the Trello idea with accounting. Like, I like Trello because you can make your lists and your boards and move things, but I want something that has, like, financial reports. Like, HoneyBook does have that, which I like. Like, it shows you your income per month and where your different income streams are from. But I think that my issue with HoneyBook is that it is made so much for wedding planners that it just has a couple things that don't necessarily fit with a copywriting business.
Sure.
But I do like that it's simple and really intuitive to use.
Have you ever heard of Dubsado?
I liked Dubsado.
You tried it.
Okay, I did. See, this is where I'm so picky. And I just need to go with something. But I felt like Dubsado almost had too much stuff. Like, there was just too much going on. Like, I was so overwhelmed by the menu and all the different options. It, like, hurt my eyeballs. Where HoneyBook just seemed a little simpler.
That's so interesting. Okay, so you are looking for, like, a Trello / accounting hybrid.
Yes.
I'll look. I'm going to keep this in mind.
Yes. Anyone listening to this,
smart.
Email me. Yeah. Like, I'm just so picky. But one system that I do love also, and this is more of a personal budgeting thing, but I'm all about Mint.com.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, if you're just looking for a great way to budget with your family, we are all about Mint. You can, like, really see where your money goes each month. And I think if you're working towards quitting your 9-to-5 or minimizing that and growing your business, Mint is just super helpful to see how much money you need for different categories like groceries and rent and things like that. So I also love Mint.
Ooh, Mint. Okay. Have you ever heard of You Need a Budget?
Yeah, they're really similar.
They're
pretty
similar.
much the same thing.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So either of those are great. I think we just do Mint because that's just what my husband does. I don't know.
I've heard great things about both. I think my problem is I obviously love hearing about what other people are doing, and so then I find it a little difficult to commit to one thing.
Yes.
And I think that's like with anything, with any tool. It's
Yep.
not going to work for you, no matter how awesome it is. It's not going to work if you don't use it, which is what I'm constantly telling myself.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like every wedding industry person I talk to is like, I love this and this and this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't love anything. I feel like I'm just the opposite.
Well, is there anything else that you're loving right now or tools that you use in your business?
I think those pretty much sum it up for business usage. I'm kind of old school. I have an Excel spreadsheet. That's like where I live.
Yeah,
I
you
Google
do.
Calendar. I'm kind of basic in those kind of ways, but I'm always looking for new things. So maybe this will lead to me finding a great project management system.
Yes, I hope so. And if you are listening and you know of an awesome project management system that Claire should try, you heard it here first. Email her so she can find out. Well, tell me, I would love to know what's on the horizon for you and for your business in 2017. What are you excited about?
Sure. So 2017 is off to a really great start. I'm currently booking new copywriting clients, and I also just launched a newsletter called Blog Like a Boss. I do a lot of blog ghostwriting, but I've learned that a lot of business owners actually really have a desire to blog for themselves, but just feel really overwhelmed and aren't sure how to overcome that blinking cursor panic.
Oh, wow.
So every month, I send out this newsletter, and it's just kind of chock full of tangible tips that will help your blog thrive. And I'm hoping to expand that into an online webinar later this year. So if you want to get more info on that, you can check out my website. But another thing I'd like to do this year, I'm not really sure what this is going to look like, but I really want to help people dive into this freelancing world. It's super accessible, and people don't know how to do it, and it's not that hard. And I'm getting to the point where I have a lot of like friends of friends of friends who just want to hop on a 20-minute phone call to chat about it. And I kind of want to just transition into being able to, I don't know, like a webinar, an e-course or something where I can give a lot of information to a lot of people at once. So I'm not sure how that's going to look, but that's a Power Sheets goal.
There you
Finding
go.
a way to help people do that. Yeah. And I'm still working hard in the freelance world. I had a piece in the Washington Post last month about adoption, which is a topic that's really dear to my heart. And I'm still writing about all things bridal at Women Getting Married and Veil and other outlets when opportunities arise. So yeah, I'm really excited for the new year.
It sounds like a big, fun, exciting year for you. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Well, tell our listeners how they can find you online.
Sure. So you can head over to my website. It's claireswinarski.com. I have a really clunky Polish last name, but it's ClaireSwinarski. And then on Instagram, I'm at What Claire Saw. So you can find me at either of those places.
Love it. And those links will be in the show notes along with everything else Claire mentioned today. Claire Swinarski, thank you so much for being on She Creates Business. It was truly a pleasure to have you. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.